The worst point last year, we had 23 rooms empty, and it felt like we'd made, one of the biggest mistakes that we'd ever made. We had a lot of time going backwards and forwards with this landlord. She had an additional property on the same street, so we ended up buying both of them. Be consistent, upgrade your network. We're really privileged to be with each other here, and that's been a significant value.
Moving straight on to our next presenter. Please put your hands together for Mac.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. Just a massive thank you. I'm incredibly nervous. Sharing my journey with you is going to be quite interesting. I don't normally like to talk about this kind of thing. But really humbled and privileged to be up here, and it's been a wonderful family to be a part of. Okay, so my story so far, before I started Mastermind, I was a pharmacist, and I still am registered as a pharmacist. So I spent 20 years in the NHS. My exit role was a head of medicines management for clinical commissioning groups. So relatively tough job. I'll just take a second to breathe. Relatively tough job. I had a budget of 160 million that I was distributing over a population of 450,000. So quite high pressured, and because of those high pressured kind of NHS jobs, incredibly grateful to be a part of the NHS, incredibly valuable work to do, but there was always a payoff. And so I wasn't seeing family, I wasn't seeing friends. I didn't have any time. I was working over in West Yorkshire. West Yorkshire was about an hour and a bit away from me, so I was spending about 12 hours in the car. So I'd leave home before the kids woke up, and I would get back just before bedtime, so about 10 minutes. I'm going to try and walk to try and calm some of these nerves down. I'd do my Steve Jobs thing. We weren't strangers to property. We had a student property which we had acquired in 2007. I think I've told you the story that we didn't actually want it, so we became accidental landlords, and we kind of accidentally entered into a negotiation because we were adamant we didn't want it, and I'm going to go walk over here. So we had some experience with that, and then we did nothing for 11 years. The kind of call for action for me was at the time, in the middle of October 19, I had an instance which kind of changed my perspective forever, really. It was a huge health scare from my perspective. My wife and I were, at the time, trying to conceive our third child, and we weren't able to do that. And my father had a heart attack. I've not actually, I don't know why I'm getting emotional, because I'm not normally emotional. So that kind of changed our perspective and things. And I think a lot of it changed because overnight, the most important thing is having time with friends and family. So I knew then we had to make a change. And did I mention my father had a heart attack? Yeah. And I'm incredibly close to my family, so that was a big thing. They both worked really hard, and to get to a point where I thought, well, we need to really change something here, because this isn't a healthy lifestyle that we're leading. So at the time, my best friend, he's still my best friend, his sister, whom you may know as Julie and Ollie, they're still called Julie and Ollie, they were running the Liverpool Pin, and they were, my friend said to me I should go and meet Julie and Ollie and have a chat with them, because they seem to know what they're doing. So I attended the Liverpool Pin, and again, I think I've told you this before, whereby I attended the meeting, and then I came back home, spoke to my wife, and she said, how did it go? And I was like, something's not right there. They're happy. They're really genuinely happy. Something's not right. They're part of something. It's not real. I don't believe it. And I spoke to Julie and Ollie on the phone, and they said, if you're interested in property, then you should go to the accelerator. I was like, I'm not spending money to do something that I can get from a book. At that point, I read Simon's book, and then I spoke to the Pin host, attended the accelerator in September 19, and I don't know how you guys felt. I had to kind of sit down after that weekend and in a dark room and just like kind of rock myself to sleep, because it was completely mind-blowingly, these kinds of new strategies that we were learning. I made a huge decision at that point after speaking to my wife, and I don't necessarily suggest everybody does this, but I then handed in my notice, worked my notice period for 3 months, signed up for the full Mastermind year, and then we went full-time in January 2020. We set the commitment, we made the commitment, set the goal, which was 50 rooms. At 5 minutes already, brilliant. Set the 50 rooms was our target, and then we went hell for leather. So January 2020 was the time we went really hard, and HMO strategy was our main focus to try and replace income. And then we opened up the company. So my reason why was to spend time with family. That's my family, my cousins. That's my wife and children. I am punching well above my weight. I realise that. And also getting away on holiday. So we really like to spend time on holidays. January 2020 happened. We were forced to spend time with families, and we couldn't go away on holiday. But I'm happy to tell you now that I still enjoy spending time with family. I also like stuff, so I love motorcycles, and I like cars. So January 2020 happened. We went into lockdown. We then, interesting reflecting on the journey, January 2020, COVID hit. I was out of the NHS, couldn't go anywhere. We had just taken on our first student unit. We were renovating that. We were renovating 2 additional units in Liverpool. So at the worst point last year, we had 23 rooms empty. And it felt like we'd made, one of the biggest mistakes that we'd ever made. And it really was quite a struggle. And I recognise everyone's been through that, but it's a really interesting point to reflect on, because that's how we have got to where we are today. And because it was so stressful, it's worth noting that this was me before the Mastermind, and this is me now. So I've aged significantly. I think you'll agree. So just going to go through two deals. Salford, we found through landlord letters. It was currently being used as a young professional HMO, but it was relatively tired. The landlord got in contact, really reluctant to kind of negotiate, but she wanted to consolidate her portfolio. Despite it being a heated market, she wanted a quick sell. She didn't want to go to the open market. So our purchase price was $330. We put about 20k refurb in there, which was quite a lot of money at the time. However, we make approximately £2,000 a month profit, so that's profit to the company. So that's a relatively low return on investment, return on capital, but I recognise it's not the best deal, but it's still a decent deal and it's great cash flow. We will then go to revalue this from a commercial perspective, and that will push the yields up. So there are some pictures here, pretty standard kind of HMO, actually relatively good, but not great. But bedrooms are all right. Certainly, my litmus is, would I want to spend a night there? And there's some dodgy places that I would spend a night in. But I don't have the design eye, so we changed it. We repurposed it to young professionals, kind of made it a lot more contemporary, and just made it a nicer place to live. We managed to increase the yield by the rents by 20% as well. Second deal that I was going to go through, Liverpool, which we found through sourcing agent, so we paid them a sourcing fee. Again, another landlord looking to dispose of assets. We had a lot of time going backwards and forwards with this landlord. She had an additional property on the same street, so we ended up buying both of them because they were both empty, so that was really our method of getting in there and negotiating. Historically used as students, but they were empty, as I mentioned, and we undertook loads of due diligence because they were currently being used as a 6-bed, but we went to sui gen, made them both 7-bed. Purchase price for each, so to bear in mind this is each, purchase price for each was $257,250. We got some tax relief because we were buying 2. 18k refurb, plus the cost for 7-bed planning, and we get around £1,900 profit after all expenses into the company. And that's a really nice one, really like these two. So that's a return on investment of 21%. So yeah, again, standard kind of student properties that we repurposed into something which I really like, made them really contemporary again, managed to completely change the rental yields that we were getting because it was a completely different market. So we've got some really cool people in there. So today, and it's bizarre to say, and it's almost have to kind of take stock of the journey that we've been through, but we've done 8 deals over the 17 months. The total property value is now 2.7 million, which is crazy to say, but that's the number. And we make approximately £120,000 worth of annual profit. So we're going to continue with the HMOs, continue looking at both student and young professionals, looking at also some commercial projects, so commercial to residential. Also looking at the LHA, yesterday's was a great day. Also continue with single lets. I love single lets. They don't take up any time and they're great. Important diversification into different asset classes, so kind of stocks and shares, etc., etc. So top tips. Things definitely take longer and cost more. Testament to the previous year. Really try and get uncomfortable. Try and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Be consistent. Upgrade your network. We're really privileged to be with each other here, and that's been a significant value. Also, the mentors that we've had and used. I've got a new mentor now who's a prolific Liverpool investor, and he's great to kind of pick up the phone to and speak to. Leverage your network. I have bent most people's ear off in this room, and I really want to thank you for it. I promise I'll pick up my phone next time you ring, and we can try and do something together. Ask questions. It takes me a while to learn things, but I'll keep asking questions, even if they're considered stupid. I'll ask them. I don't really care anymore, because I think at some point a question needs to be asked. Get a good power team. And be proud. I mean, I'm not someone that likes to kind of talk about stuff, but we've all done really, really well. We are different people to when we first started. I know I certainly am. So yeah, enjoy the journey and enjoy the ride. And this is our website, so if you want to get in touch, please do. This is our Instagram account, and these are my details if you want to get in contact with me. And thank you all so much.
I do hope you got massive value from watching this YouTube video. I'd encourage you to click on the link below to come and do the online training with me. And I've got another video lined up for you, which I think is also going to be really useful, that you should watch once you've registered for the online training with me. So invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I'll see you very soon.